1320 WILS, the morning wake up here. And, when we discuss gas prices, oil prices, price per barrel, and it drops under $50, we've had a lot of different experts on to tell us that's where you start getting in the worrisome zone, the further south of 50. When it's 50 or above, doesn't have to be a lot above, but there's some reason to keep exploring, keep drilling. You're kind of betting on the come, like you're playing the craps game at Las Vegas or wherever else. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you have to keep in the game. And if you're not in the game, what are you doing? Sometimes you're selling gear or you're selling stuff. You're just operating on the margin. That's been happening with a lot of auction houses out there as a lot of heavy equipment goes up for bid. Who's bidding on this? And is that a sign that down the road we're going to have a problem? Let's visit this morning with a specialist from the auction industry. He's in the Auctioneer Hall of Fame, 98 International Champion Auctioneer, Mike Jones. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Appreciate you being here. Are you seeing an uptick in oil industry goods being auctioned off out there, just trying to make back a few, some pennies on the dollar?
Well, it's kind of a record-breaking time if you're in the business of selling assets. We've probably not seen anything like this since the early 80s. Back in 81, there were over 4,500 rigs operating, and in May of this year, we had 404 rigs operating. So we've been liquidating assets now heavily in the area of service companies, companies that support the oil and gas industry. I just liquidated a company in Colorado here in the last 30 days, and we are appraising and selling assets pretty much every day.
Wow. I mean, and, we see the same thing here in this state in the auto industry where, some of the big folks, people like General Motors, especially after they've been revamped, Ford and others, they can have a downturn. They can take and cut shifts. They can do whatever. But those aftermarket people, the people who supply them, sometimes they get in a real pinch.
Yeah, and you're seeing it right now. I mean, and it's coast to coast. It's not in any one particular area. And Texas, I'm based in Dallas, so I see it from a little different perspective. But at the same time, we're a national company, and we also operate internationally, and so we get to see it on all sides. I would just say that whenever the upside is the gas prices for the average American is awesome, and the price is great if you want to take a trip. The downside of this is you have the small providers, you have and the big companies too. It's not just the little guys. In the last 12 months, and just in Texas alone, we've had over $29 billion of assets in the bankruptcy court. So it's not just the service providers. It affects the local economy. It affects the leases on commercial property, and there are entire towns across the United States that are in the oil and gas business where the whole economy is based on it. The tax base is based on it. So you may get a great deal on a tank of gas, but it's going to get you somewhere else. That's what's going to happen.
If you're selling, who's buying out there? I mean, if people are selling off what they need to do the work or to help supply those who help with the work, is it true you find if you have the right price point, everything will sell? Is that accurate?
Well, I would say so. What we're seeing right now is there are hedge fund groups on a bigger scale that are creating brand new companies right now. A lot of the very same people who are bankrupting companies have new groups they're forming, and they're going back in and they're buying up the assets, and they'll retool and start all over again. People in the oil and gas business don't go away; they just reinvent themselves. So it's hard on the little guy. The little guy gets the big hit the worst. The big guy is not hurt nearly as bad. And when you have hedge fund money coming in, they're there to pick up these assets, and the price of oil has a big part to do with that. I've been involved in production auctions for many, many years and selling oil and gas production, where people, overrides on wells and things, and done as many as $90 million in 2 days. And so there are buyers, and now, naturally, certain assets are going to be on the lower side. Machining centers and things of that nature, a $300,000 machine might be selling for $150,000 right now. And that's just the way it is. But now if you're selling a backhoe that you're going to use in the field, there's other industries that can use that backhoe.
Gotcha. So the more the more specialized it is, if the interest isn't in that specialty right now, and if that's what's waning, you're going to have a problem. You're going to be 50 cents on the dollar. The backhoe that can be working in oil price, can be working heavy construction, just about anything. That's a much more viable commodity, isn't it?
That's exactly correct. Exactly correct.
Okay.
And let me tell you, there's a lot of things being sold outside of this too. A lot of these companies and individuals that have had great success now have extra assets that they need to sell, and so it may be a ranch. It could be a hunting place that they bought. Maybe it's a Gulfstream jet. Maybe it's a boat. But these assets have to be sold, because if you don't have the oil and gas money coming in, you can't afford it.
I didn't really think of it that way, but you can have at these auctions an interesting lot of things, right? Coming up, and
absolutely,
and some of those might be of more interest to some folks with cash who are ready to buy than maybe, I guess, some of the more hardcore oil related items.
Well, you have to think about it from the banker's perspective. If you're not making the payments on that 36-foot yacht, they're going to push you to do something. And so it's going to go up for sale one way or the other. And that's something that our company specializes in, is specialty assets and equine farms and large land tracts and second homes and recreational waterfront stuff. We sell a lot of it, and we'll do probably 17,000 transactions this year.
During the low oil period, again, sub $50. We know the oil patch is trying to hang on in North Dakota. They have a lot of state backing there to keep that going, because it is their big deal. In Texas, you've got more diversification, but still oil is big. Will Texas weather the storm?
Oh yeah, Texas will weather the entire United States, whether it's in the Northeast or if it's in the Dakotas. And, I looked at the rig count this morning, and the rig count this last week was up 5 rigs in Texas. It was only up 1 in North Dakota, 1 in Utah. So it's not moving really quick. But here's the thing. Texas is very diversified. We learned that the hard way back in the 80s and the 90s. And so there's more technology here. Dallas is safe. Probably the biggest hit in Texas is going to be south of San Antonio and Houston. Houston's been hit pretty hard because there's a lot of manufacturing base around it. But I think overall, this is a cycle. There's some greed factor involved, and I also believe the election has a lot to do with what's going on right now. We quite frankly, I come from an oil background, and we have not received the support from Washington that we've needed in order to do production and be able to operate these companies. So we've had some restrictions placed on it. And depending on how the election goes, we're going to see, we're going to see some changes, but then again, we may see no change, and that may send another indicator. And people are going to have to decide if they want to sit on the fence or if they want to move forward and realize that life goes on. And typically, life goes on.
Mike, do you still auction yourself, or do you leave that to others now?
I do at least one auction every week.
Wow.
I enjoy it. It's been fun. I've been doing it since I was 17 years old, and so I've been in it 40 years. And I actually enjoy it more now than I did because I'm selling what I want to sell. I'm not having to chase and try to find I'm not trying to get started anymore. I get the phone calls, and so I have a very blessed life. And I run an auctioneering school in Texas. And so between teaching auctioneering and conducting auctions and working with United SCS, appraising and selling assets, it's a good time.
Mike, I did too. Through all the years of media, I've done tons of charity auctions, and I always say, get a real auctioneer. You're going to make more money. But when some say, now we want you, you can, the crowd. Okay, that's fine. But there's a point in every auction, where you're there to sell stuff. That's the bottom line. But there's a little entertainment factor, and you guys do it. Frankly, you do it better. You keep that patter going. The amateurs like us, I just said I can't do that. So I just got to go, what about you? What about you? I can't do the stuff you got. Can you give us a taste of it going out the door here?
Yeah, and I do about 40 charity events a year.
Yeah.
So here we go.
All right.
And ladies and gentlemen, let's sell the trip to Cancun. I'm going to get 5,000. Now I'm going to get 6,000. Now 6,500. Now I'm going to get 7,000.
Go!
7,500. Now 8. Now I'm going to get 8,500. Now I'm going to get 9,000. I'm going to get 9,500. Sold it. $9,000. Number 7.
Sold American. Very good. Love to hear it, Mike. You're great. I appreciate the info and good stuff on the oil and all the oil and gas auctions happening out there, especially on the crude side. Mike Jones, auctioneer, Hall of Fame. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, more ahead. Morning Wake Up.